Hello! In this chapter, we'll be exploring what happens to the Sinamay after World War II. How do we go from a self-sustaining agricultural society into the tourist and service-oriented society we see today? We're going to be exploring topics like education, healthcare, economics, government, and different cultural aspects including religion and family life.
The first task of the American administration was to repatriate or send back all the Japanese and Koreans that had been kept at camp. They also wanted to demobilize or send back home the American troops that were on Saipan and the Marianas. Much of Garapan was destroyed after the war. The Americans relocated everything to Chalankanoa, especially the people, and there in Chalankanoa, that's where they started to rehabilitate and revitalize and rebuild the Northern Marianas after World War II. I'm standing here in Chalankanoa looking at Mount Carmel Cathedral built. The American administration believed in separation of church and state, but they also understood that the Chamorros and Carolinians had to have their cultural traditions. The concrete and materials that they used were salvaged from World War II and were sold at a very low price so that the Chamorros and Carolinians could build a church. And after World War II, people had many loved ones to bury. Here I am walking through the cemetery, and we have the Americans supplying the land, we have a Japanese architectural symbol, and then we have the Spanish and Catholic influences.
The pre-war village leaders were reappointed. The Americans referred to them as commissioners. They had really been no change in the functions, only in their titles.
On May 1947, the United States determined that the municipal council could make its own laws.
During the post-war period, this building was home to the Saipan Municipal Council, which it still does.
I'm here in Aslito next to a coconut tree farm. Before the war, there were 200,000 pounds of fruits and vegetables farmed here in Aslito. After the war, in fact 1 year later, there were only 11,000 pounds a month. The United States tried greatly to go back into agriculture so that the people in the Sinamay can have some other subsistence besides relying on government work. They created trade shops and they also created trade institutions. This train is a symbol of the development of the Sinamay from an agricultural, self-sustaining one to a cash-centered economy. A lot of the documents concerning who owned land were lost in World War II, and so determining who owned these farms was very difficult. With the Japanese administration, the government had helped private citizens farm the entire island of Saipan, but with this naval administration, ownership of property was difficult, and so farming was also very difficult. With the fall of Japan, we see the fall of a self-sustaining Sinamay, and we see the rise of a globalized, cash-oriented economy. I'm here at the port of Saipan. After World War II, the United States had made it so that there was a tax on all goods that were not American. To speed up Americanization of Saipan, Tinian, and Rota, the Americans increased the price of goods outside of the United States so that the Chamorros and Carolinians would want to buy more American products and be exposed to more American culture. The Navy also grouped up and teamed up with local businessmen to create local entrepreneurship, to build warehouses, businesses, stores, so that we could actually get back on our feet. Hundreds of local Chamorros and Carolinians started to work for the government. They became so dependent on an income that people stopped farming and started to rely on imported goods. Such goods included imports like beer, canned goods, and most especially rice. The government was the largest employer at this time. People started to focus on education, focus on getting a job, and leave the old world of farming and agriculture behind. I'm here in WSR in Chalankanoa. After the war, there was only one school in Chalankanoa. It had 6 grades. The reason why the United States government wanted to establish schools is to make the islanders become more self-reliant, to encourage agriculture, mechanical arts, and local trade, and instill respect and loyalty to the United States, and to learn United States ideals. While the residents of Saipan were settling in Susupi and Chalankanoa, the American Naval Administration was settling on a hill above Garpan, thus the term Navy Hill. The American administration also wanted to revitalize healthcare on Saipan. What they did is they built a hospital here, and this hospital was able to create x-rays for many patients. They were also able to deliver babies. And the good thing about having a hospital is that people were not delivering babies at home anymore. There were nurses and doctors to care for them. And having this allowed them to save many lives, especially for mothers and infants. The United States Navy even instituted a top secret training unit. Behind me are some buildings in Capitol Hill that were used at this time. What kind of stuff went on? I don't know. If I did, then it wouldn't be top secret. The top secret training really angered a lot of people, especially from the outside, people wanting to go out or people from the outside wanting to come to Saipan. A lot of investment was hindered, a lot of people visiting Guam was hindered. After they were done with their training, they gave it back to the Sinamay government, and now we use it for our government buildings. After the bombing, Garpan, which was the largest village in Saipan, was totally destroyed. The Micronesian Equipment Company had headquarters here in the beachside, and what they did is they collected scrap metal all over Garpan and Saipan. In fact, some people even found scrap metal and sold it to the company. The beach that I'm standing in front of today, Micro Beach, is named after that company. You can still see Japanese heritage today in Garpan. There's Japanese restaurants, Japanese signs, Japanese tourists. So the impact that Japan had on Saipan, and especially Garpan, where thousands of Japanese, Okinawans, and Koreans lived, is still evident and seen today. Here is a bell tower of the Cristo Rey Church. You can see that the design and architecture is very similar to the design and architecture in Chalankanoa with Mount Carmel Cathedral. This shows that the United States government didn't want to completely change the culture of Marianas. They wanted to integrate what the culture was to the American ideals. Hi, so I hope you enjoyed that presentation, but I hope you also learned a lot about how the Sinamay changed from being an agricultural economy to a service and cash economy. Right now I'm speaking to you in English, so obviously that's caught on. So to see all that change and continuity, you know that the thing that continues the most are the people. And that's what counts. You and me, we are in my history. Thank you.